Miriam, are you back?
I'm sorry, John, were you talking to me or to Marion?
No, Miriam Porterfield.
Suzanne Unger has joined the meeting. Can't see anything.
We're here,
Marion
Suzanne.
Porterfield, I got back.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we can.
Hello.
Has joined the meeting.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, I'll call to order the Schenectady Urban Renewal Agency. First item on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes from our February 18th meeting. Entertain a motion to move it.
I move it.
I'll second. Karen ZW.
All in
A
favor,
participant
signify by
has
saying
joined the
aye.
meeting.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are adopted. Next item is resolution for acceptance of the procurement report for 2019.
So
Entertain a
moved.
motion.
John Palomini.
Palomini moves. Do I have a second?
I'll
Second,
second.
Lisa.
Okay.
Sorry, Lisa, you moved that or seconded
I
it?
seconded it.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Resolution is adopted. Next item is the measurement report for 2019. Entertain a motion to move it.
Palomini moves.
Palomini moves. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Karen ZW.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Resolution stands adopted. Next item is the acceptance of the annual report 2019.
Palomini
Entertain a
moves.
motion.
Second by John Mudaviran.
Mr. Motivaran seconds. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Is there any other business to come before the agency?
Motion to adjourn.
Hold on, Mayor. I believe we missed the investment report. I think we went right to the procurement report. I don't know if we did a resolution for the investment report. Sorry.
I apologize. You're correct, Mr. Colden. Go back to resolution 2020-03 for the 2019 investment report. Entertain a motion to accept that.
So moved. Karen ZW.
Second by John Mudaviran.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Resolution is adopted. Now I'll entertain the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Do I have a second for that?
I'll second. Karen ZW.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agency stands adjourned. I thank you.
Thank you. We'd like to call the Schenectady City Council committee meeting for Monday, April 6, 2020 together. And we will go right into city development and planning. Ms. Karen.
So I want to open city development and planning. The first item on the agenda, change order implementation of the stockade streetscape components on Union and Front Street. And Mr. Wallen, you're on to do explanation on this, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. So good evening, everyone. Got my camera on this time. Hopefully things will go smoother. I have a lot of backup, which was submitted. With this, I hope you had a chance to review the backup because that's kind of critical to what this change order is. Back in August, we decided to do a fall paving program, which was put out to bid. Part of that fall paving program has components in the stockade such as Union Street. The reason Union Street was included was that National Grid was concluding, and they are going to be done within the next week or two this year with all of the gas work and upgrading of the low pressure to the medium pressure on Union Street. And as we know, the street was already in poor condition, so it's in worse condition with that construction. We wanted to get in there last year when we awarded it, and we wanted to get in there immediately and be paved, mill and pave like we do. However, since that time, the Stockade Association has been working on a streetscape component plan, and it was adopted in the off-season, so to speak, in January. The Stockade Association, I've worked with them for my entire career here at the city. So the Stockade Association reached out to me and said, if you're going to be working on Union Street, we would love it to incorporate these as, we only get so many windows. If we go into Union Street and we pave it, I'm not looking to go back to Union Street for 10 years. Not to say I'm just not looking to go back for 10 years. So we wanted to move forward with the thought of a change order to implement some of the components that were in the plan this year. So we're kind of hitting the street running. They had their consultant put together a package. It has the location maps in it and some of the samples of what we're going to be looking to do, which is really what our refuge areas, lush refuge areas, brick and granite, things that create a narrowing effect on the street. Because as you know, once we pave a street, regardless of where the street is, people tend to drive a little bit faster because it's smoother and they can. In the Stockade, it's a little narrower. We like to see this both for pedestrians and for the visualization of narrowing. And then also it will help with the historic character of the neighborhood. So I personally have no issue with moving forward as it's an adopted plan. I think of all streets, Union Street, it's with the exception of Front, it is the main corridor. It's the bulk of the traffic, so we will get the most bang for our buck visually from a impact standard and from people actually seeing and utilizing it. And I've been working with the Stockade on this since then. I did reach out to our contractor. They did give me a price, which was somewhere in the neighborhood of upwards of $200,000, but it's quite a bit of work with all these intersections. So that cost is right where I thought it would be. So I'll entertain any questions. I believe someone from the Stockade Association is on the joining the meeting too. I don't know if we want anyone from the public to speak, but I just wanted to point that out.
So thank you, Mr. Wallen. Yeah, and we did receive an email from the Stockade Association President, Suzanne Unger, in support of this. I would entertain any questions. Does anyone have any questions?
This is Lisa. It's more of a statement. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world to do this while we're doing the paving. If we're going to do it, we should do it one fell swoop.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is the right way to do it. Let's not piecemeal things and get it done and get it done right the first time. Any other questions, comments?
I'll make a motion.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. I don't have anything else on city development and planning, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All righty. We're stand adjourned.
Okay.
We can go into health and recreation.
Okay, I'd like to open the health and recreation meeting, and the first item for discussion is the adoption of the new 2020 golf rate. And I know Matt Daly's on. Matt, do you want to say a few words about this?
Yep. So, I think the piece of legislation you have in front of you should be a little bit better to read than I had the last time. I hope that was a little bit, less.
Suzanne
confusing.
Unger has left the meeting.
Well, so does anybody have any questions about the current rates that we're planning to adopt this year?
If no one has any questions for Matt, I'll look for a motion to pass this.
This is John.
Oh, wait, we're just discussing it?
Yeah, Matt, can you explain the rationale behind the $1, the $2, and the $5, just for the public to
Sure,
understand it?
absolutely. So we are proposing to do a $1 rate increase for all of the greens fees, not cart revenues or anything of that.
Has joined the meeting.
Specifically on golf greens fees. When you see the non-resident veteran $2 increase, Chris Wong brought it to my attention that there was a little bit of an inconsistency with a discount that they were receiving as opposed to others. So $2 kind of keeps everybody else in line and it keeps it more consistent. So everybody is receiving the same and one doesn't look like they're getting favored over another. When you look towards the bottom and you see under the out tournament increase, which is where there was a little bit of a hang up last time and it looked like we were proposing a $5 greens fee increase everywhere. That's just for tournaments and outings. So just to give you a little bit of information on that. So when we do an outing or a tournament, if you're going, say if you have 120 players and you're going to close the golf course down for your event, we charge a little bit more revenue for that service. And so since we're raising our rates, we decided that we're going to raise our tournament rates as well to $5.
Does anybody have any other questions?
But people should understand too, the staff provides more support for the tournaments too, and helping them get organized. We tend to set up the sound system for announcements. So there is time and effort to make sure that people who are playing in the tournament have an enjoyable day there and get to take advantage of really a great course. So that slight increase just reflects the time and effort the city puts in to support the different tournaments that choose to play at Muni.
Yeah, thank you. That's true. Thank you.
I'll move a motion. I'll make a motion to accept the increases.
For a second?
Second by John Motivaren.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we'll move that out of committee.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, are we doing the, okay. Is that it for me or?
Now there's a Little League discussion.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that was still, I didn't see it on the, when we opened up. Okay, so next, Ed, if you'd like to talk about the Little League, the update on vandalism at the Little League.
Yep, Carmel, can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you, because I'm on a regular landline here. I still have trouble connecting with my Dell, but that's okay. So thank you, Carmel. I just want to give a very quick update. For those who may not know, I was involved with Schenectady Little League for well over 10 years. Even having 3 daughters involved there, it was great to us and great to the community and to the city residents. And of course, they had that terrible vandalism just 7 days ago. And I just wanted to reach out and say, if you follow them on their Facebook, Schenectady Little League, you'll see the various organizations and companies that have really reached out to help and volunteer, and at no charge. They've done some tremendous work in there. They've actually installed a security camera and alarm system. They've replaced all the garage doors that were vandalized, restrooms, fixtures, and again, just true volunteerism, and again, the community and local organizations coming together. And I just urge, if anybody can go on to their Facebook page, they have a GoFundMe thing going as well, and support our kids. And, hopefully we'll get Little League, maybe in the fall of 2020. because it really looks doubtful for this summer. But it's a great place for the kids to play. And again, I just want to thank all those parents and volunteers that have put their time and effort there this past weekend and several days to work on that field for our kids.
So just to add to that, so they're getting the support needed to kind of move beyond what happened there to them 7 days ago?
Yes, it appears quite a few folks again have come through for them. I've stopped over there a couple of times, including this weekend, and there were several parents just working there. So they've got some other needs and concerns that they might be reaching out to possibly us for some assistance if there. But at the moment, I just want to take the time to say thank you to those folks that have helped out. And again, it's a great opportunity for our kids here in the city.
Okay, anybody else?
Nope.
Okay, thanks, Ed. I'll look for a motion to adjourn the Health and Recreation Committee.
So moved.
Second?
Second by John Mudaviran.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll call to order the Finance Committee. The first item on the agenda is with Mr. Kosher waiving the interest and penalties on the second quarter property taxes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Palmani. And as the COVID-19 health crisis continues, I spoke recently with Council President Multivaran and asked if we can offer a resolution to possibly waive interest and penalties on property taxes that are still owed to the city. This would include both residential and commercial properties. As you know, with the loss of wages, disruption of business, hospitalization, quarantine, and other significant consequences, the coronavirus, individuals and business owners are dealing with an unprecedented disruption in their daily lives. And many, of course, are experiencing financial hardship. As it turns out, our colleagues here in the Schenectady County Legislature, believe it or not, will be voting this evening to a similar resolution, to move a similar resolution out of committee to a full vote of the body scheduled for next Tuesday evening. And I feel it's only right that this council should strongly consider waiving the late fees for taxpayers who cannot pay on time to a reasonable cause and circumstances beyond their control. As you know, in a city where renters make up more than half of our city, how do we expect the property owners to even make that payment? Tenants can't pay their rent if they can't earn a living. To our local small businesses and large businesses as well, who have had to follow the mandatory shutdown orders, how are they going to make payments? I just urge my colleagues on this council to partner with our elected officials from the county and propose to cancel interest, penalties, and other charges on all city and county property taxes, which are to be collected by the city of Schenectady for our second quarter here of 2020, which dates include April 16th through July 15th.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kosher, for bringing this forward. I know several were actually considering something, and thankfully you brought it up. Are there any other comments on this?
So,
Yes.
I
Go ahead.
okay. It's Karen ZW. I didn't hear the dates that he was looking at. We're just doing it for this tax one quarter.
The second quarter, yes, our second quarter, which is April 16th through July 15th.
So we're waiving the late fees, but I also think we need to, waive any interest on any of that also.
That's in there. Late fees, interest, and cancel interest, penalties, and other charges.
Okay.
And the county now as well, because we also collect the county portion, don't forget.
Right.
So that would include county property taxes as well, which are collected by the city of Schenectady.
Now, Ed, that does not include if you're late in the first quarter, correct?
Correct.
No, that's correct, Anthony, correct.
Mr. Mudaviran?
Yeah, I just want to add to that. The county had originally proposed May 1st to July 31st. And when I had reviewed this with Mr. Colden and Ms. Klein, we kind of reviewed it to say, okay, the second quarter falls between April 16th to July the 15th. So we reach out back to the county for them to adjust their proposed resolution, which they did. So both the city and the county resolution is aligned in terms of the dates. And I just want to mention that out.
Is there any other discussion?
Yes, can we also make it available so that our citizens know that they can make partial payments during this time frame? And I think Lindsay might be on, and I think she has a way to collect the partial payments during this time period. Sometimes it's more difficult to collect all the money at once, and if they make a partial payment, it has tendency to be a little easier on the cash flow.
Mr. Palomini, I think Ms. Klein is on. So
Yeah, I was just about ready to ask
Yeah.
her to answer the question. So go ahead, Ms. Klein.
I'm on. Yeah, I'm on. So we accept partial payments anytime during the year. And so during a normal quarter, when we'd be charging interest, they would only be penalized on the remaining principal balance. So we do have a lot of people that make partial payments, and they can do it in any frequency and any amount. And we do communicate that. The school does not allow that. So it's something where people do turn to us to kind of let them do that, and they do. So.
Is there any further discussion?
And Mr. Palmini, and of course, Lindsay, just to make note that they can also make their payments online as well. There is a small fee, I believe it is, maybe was it 1.5% or 2% interest a charge, but they can make their payments over the internet as well. Am I correct?
Go ahead, Ms. Klein.
Okay, sorry. If you use an e-check, it's only 50 cents, which is the same as a postage stamp. So that's what we've been you don't actually need physical checks. All you need is your routing number and your account number, and you can make payments for 50 cents a time. The credit card fee is the same as if they use their credit card in person, and payment it's 2.4%. So it is a significant charge, and that's the same charge as if you used it in person or online. So we do encourage the e-checks.
Is there anything further?
Yes, just one more reference. This is what we are doing here, waiving, canceling the interest penalty and any other charges and property taxes. That has to do directly the county tax and the city tax, and this is not driven towards the school tax. The school needs to act on their side.
Yes, and I would just point out that appreciate people paying their taxes, that last year at this time, we had approximately 31% of our revenue had been collected. And this year, we're actually running at 36%. So we're ahead of what we were in 2019, but we also understand the difficulties that many people are dealing with that really happened in the last few weeks.
Anything else?
No,
All right,
I would like to move this.
Okay, is there a second?
Yes, I'll second. Sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next item is with Mr. Ferrari, the 2020 seeker for capital projects.
Thank you, Mr. Palomini, City Council, Mayor. Yes, remember when we passed the 2020 budget, a portion of the budget was for capital projects that we had planned to do for the year 2020 and 21. It has been determined that the $8.6 million, 8.7 that includes cost of issuance, will not have any significant adverse impact on the environment. Of course, that's one of the big things we need to pass before we can ask for a bond resolution. So I'm asking you to approve the negative declaration pursuant to the seeker.
Are there any comments or questions? Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Mr. Palomini, just a minute, please. So what are we moving here? We're moving the 2018-19, or we're moving everything?
This is the seeker. This is the State Environmental
Quality Review Act.
We're passing that these projects do not have an impact on the environment.
Pardon me, Mr. Palomini?
Go ahead.
I assume that all of these documents need to match, correct? So the seeker needs to match the projects being put forward and all of the legislation down the line, correct?
The seekers to match the 2020 budget resolution, capital project resolution.
Yeah, so if we're going to amend that in any way, we would need to start with this particular document. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
All right. Any further questions or comments? All right, I'll go back. Is there a motion?
This is Lisa again. I have some concern with the Smart Cities initiative being included in this. I think we're in the potential of having some revenue challenges. And it's also my understanding, Mr. Ferrari, yes, that we can once again amend the capital budget and pass a resolution going forward if we want to add additional projects. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and so my proposal in this circumstance is that we focus on the needs and not the wants. And I think infrastructure part of this, the paving, the bridge equipment, is where we should be focusing right now. And we should hold on that $2-point-something million for the time being until we get on the other side of this COVID circumstance.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
We're dealing with that today. We had teleconference with our consultant ISTech, with Intel, with Ellis Medicine, with the fire department, looking how do we deliver services at a higher level. We're looking at providing medical care. Some of our protocols are shifting where we're leaving patients in place. We're not transporting them to the hospital. This infrastructure will allow us to, again, potentially monitor patients, working with Ellis. We're also looking at the school district with the distance learning. And so I would caution the council to look at this as an opportunity for investment and for us to, again, continue to be leaders in this, as opposed to a negative thing or potentially shortchanging some of the residents when we have the opportunity here to, again, to deliver services at a higher level and more cost-effective way.
Mr. Palomeni?
Go ahead.
Mayor, what is the timeline on this completion so we would actually be able to deliver those services?
We're doing some of that today, and we're looking to ramp that up.
My question is, when would this be completed so we could absolutely deliver those services to the city of Schenectady?
I don't have an exact date, but we're developing that now. I'm putting units out every day, working with National Grid to put out the bids for the next phases. That will happen in, I believe, the next 2 weeks.
Mr. Palomeni?
Was that Miss Porterfield?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'll wait.
Oh, all right.
This would take potentially more than a year or 2 or 5.
I'm sorry, Lisa, I couldn't hear your question or statement.
I'm saying, but the work itself could potentially take years, correct?
Well, any of this stuff in the capital budget could take years. I'm looking to expedite it, move it ahead.
Okay, Ms. Porterfield.
So, Mayor, I have a question in terms of the funding that we put aside so far. How much of that funding could already be used towards what we're already discussing? What we're discussing at this point in time? Because the last time we had, we talked about the smart cities that we had allocated. I can't remember the millions that we allocated, the exact number. I don't have it here in front of me. But the spending that we've done so far, we were way behind what we had already allocated. So essentially, my question is, should we be able to do the things that you're talking about, spending the money that's already been allocated?
We've done a lot of the planning in this. So yes, it has taken longer than I anticipated, but we're now moving at really an accelerated rate. So we're doing the deployment with National Grid in terms of the lighting. We're doing the Wi-Fi AP points and the other integrated components of this.
Don't forget the fiber.
And yes, and of course, that's the main connectivity is fiber optics so that we're able to tie city services into this network and be able to handle all the data and information that's going through the pipeline.
Mr. Palomini.
Go ahead, Mr. Move, Aaron.
I think Ms. Porterfield still has a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Porterfield.
I do. And I really definitely have some concerns that we continue to allocate funds. And I understand that we're trying to be on a certain trajectory, but given what's going on right now in the world, I don't know that we can be able to continue in that direction, and whether resources are going to have to be moved in other ways to handle the pandemic that's going on. So I'm not, frankly, comfortable with allocating more funds, because I think that's in an ideal situation, but we're not currently in an ideal situation.
We're in a much better position than other communities, and not moving ahead with this will put residents of the city of Schenectady and individuals who are coming from households of poverty or lower income at a greater disadvantage than counterparts, not only within our city, but other communities across New York State.
Mr. Palomini, can I make a comment? This is Carmel.
I think Mr. Moodavaran was next, then you can go.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Hi, this is John Moodavaran. Yeah. No, I too have some concern about this on the timing of it, and I had actually started raising my questions since last week with Mr. Ferrari as to what is absolutely needed at this point in time, because we are looking potentially to, at our budget and the COVID-19 ongoing, what impact this is going to have on our city. And discussion among colleagues and Mr. Ferrari is that, can we put a hold on some of these things and move forward with the item that is absolutely needed at this point in time? And then we can revisit it in a month or two once this COVID-19 is behind us. I mean, we need to send a clear message to our community that, we're looking at the budget, we're looking at everything and costs at the same time, because we don't know. We might end up cutting the budget, reducing, revenue and expenditure. So at this time, we should be considerate as to what we put forward. And we're looking at $8.7 million to go out to bond. We should play it safe and be sensitive of what we're doing. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we are not leaving the city dry.
We did plan and properly budget for this for 2020. I'm as the finance commissioner, I'm concerned also. I feel that we have a plan and we should move forward with the plan. And in 2021, as we do the budget for 2021, then we can make cuts or not cuts to the budget. I mean, for 2021 going forward. But I believe these are the projects that all our city leaders said they needed and what needed to complete it. So, we're hoping, I'm being optimistic and thinking that this virus is going to go away sooner than most. And then it's the time to get the money for it's available now. Because I think in the future, it's going to be a lot harder to borrow money or to get money in the future.
Ms.
And just to follow up with that,
Yes.
Mr. Palomini, is there any, Mr. Ferrari, can you give us, or Mr. Mayor, where are we in terms of looking at the budget, in terms of staffing and other service at this point in time?
Well, review things on an ongoing basis. We're looking at projections going forward. On this particular topic, the municipal bond market was fairly good. The rates were going down. As this pandemic started to unfold, the market tightened up and there really was no liquidity in the municipal bond market. The Federal Reserve stepped in, has been buying municipal bonds, and has opened up the liquidity. We're continuing to monitor that, and I believe that the opportunity is there for the city to get a very good rate in terms of placing these proposed bonds. Now, having said that, we use bond counsel, we have an outside financial advisor, we have the staff reviewing it on an ongoing basis. If the market shifted, or if in fact something happened where it was in a disadvantage to the city, I would not move ahead with this. But at this point, I think it's a mistake on behalf of the council to deviate from what we've done in the budget, what we've planned for this going forward. And I would ask your support today to allow this to move forward on a procedural basis so that we are able to move ahead as planned if conditions are in a manner that justify it. I believe that we can work that in the market and work to the city's advantage.
All right, Ms. Patrick.
Yes, it seems to me that some of the smart cities initiatives have already been ongoing, and they are going to be ongoing for the next several years. I think this funding was put into the budget, but I'm concerned about the initiatives that are part of smart cities that we've talked about and that you've talked about prior to this year, around some of the police and fire department initiatives that will be assisted by this smart cities funding. I'm really concerned about the Wi-Fi and the fiber, particularly as it impacts youth and poor families in our community. I mean, I think we can see, and this crisis has even, brought it even more to the forefront, that if folks don't have that internet access or across all of our neighborhoods, then I think that could be a major problem for people that are trying to get ahead, whether it's through the workforce or youth that are trying to figure things out about school, additional schooling. So I would want to keep the projects that are underway already underway. I would want those projects to continue to be funded.
And we're working with the school district, where the school district has identified households that have students that don't have internet access, and we are trying to accelerate the placement of the Wi-Fi access points so that those students will have the ability to do the distance learning. The school district has provided Chromebooks to the students, and again, this would allow access to them, and we're looking to again work with not only the school district but with the medical community, largely led by Ellis Medicine, to deal with the current situation and then create opportunities going forward as we transition out of this kind of emergency crisis stage,
right,
and position the city for a comeback, whether it's our arts and entertainment district with Proctor's, or again, opportunities for businesses, or the new normal, which is going to exist in terms of the delivery of medical services and education opportunities, and even people working at home.
Yeah,
we have really an opportunity to be a great leader in this.
Mr. Palmetti?
Is that Ed? Is that you?
Yeah, Ed Kosher.
Oh, go ahead,
and Mr. Mayor and the rest of the council, we're talking about the Chromebooks in the school district. Just for your information, every student was not only given a Chromebook to go home, they were actually given a hotspot as well, which allows them free internet access at their home sites. So internet access for our students who are within the Schenectady School District is not an issue at this point. They all have hotspots.
Mr. Palmetti?
Yeah, and I was gonna add to that, because the students are equipped to access the internet during this period of time.
Ms. Barrasso, go ahead.
I just want to reiterate that I feel like we're in unprecedented times. We've already cherry-picked the capital budget. We certainly haven't taken it as a whole. And I just think that it's about wants and not, it's about needs and not wants right now. And we need to be prudent at this time. And it doesn't mean that we can't revisit it when this, cloud passes over. But the crux of the matter is that fund, that Smart Cities Fund, has a considerable amount of money in it that has not been earmarked quite yet for a project. And I think there's no need to pass this additional $2 million at this time until this blows over. The plans can still move in a forward direction. We're talking about years worth of work for this to happen. And I just don't think it's anything that emergent. And I would strongly urge my colleagues to consider holding on this at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Palmetti, can I say something else? This is Carmel.
Yes.
I think that actually I'm looking at it in a different way. And again, I'm no technology expert and I'm no healthcare expert. But I do think that some of the things that we've been reading about and learning about because of what's happening with the pandemic would point out that the projects that are underway to try to enhance our technology, enhance our community's efficiencies around technology would almost want to be sped up rather than, put a break on it, because I think during the time that we're trying to all get ourselves out of this crisis, that technology is going to be even more important. That's
Anyone
all.
else?
Yeah, Ms. Porterfield. And so I understand Ms. Patrick's point, but additionally, the crisis that we're in right now needs a right now solution. And so what we're talking about in terms of setting up these systems in place and all the fiber optics, that's not going to happen in the next month or even 2 months. So I have to agree with Ms. Carrazzo that we could definitely revisit that, but it's not something we're going to be able to do right away. And especially given the fact that as part of it, what the mayor said is that we were concerned about the students, knowing that the students have the ability to connect and get their homework done and all the things that they need to, certainly to me even adds more to it that if that was one of the major concerns. So I also would have to say that I would be a little bit more on the conservative side. We don't know what the outcome of what situation that we're going to be in right now, and we should just not bond for that additional money for that.
Mr. Palomini?
Go ahead.
Yeah, and not only the smart city stuff. I mean, there are other equipment purchases that we should look at. And look at it in a way that, do we need these equipment at this point in time? And can we hold off for a couple months? Let things settle down and let's see where we are. And then bring it back. We'll move forward. I don't think anyone is asking for any cuts. It's a matter of hold on to it for a while. Let's see what's happening and then bring it back and move forward. I mean, those are the questions I've been asking since last week, and I'm going to stick with that on my side in terms of that. We should look at this carefully. What is absolutely needed? Let's move forward with it. I personally don't think we need $8.7 million at this point in time.
Anyone else want to comment before I say something?
Chief Senecal here in the fire department.
Go ahead, Chief.
I would like to weigh in on the medical end of it. As the mayor stated, we were in conference today about moving forward with telemedicine. And we keep talking about this epidemic blowing over. I don't see that happening anytime soon. I don't see this happening in a month. I don't see this happening in 2 months. I think this is a long-term problem. And I don't know that the fire department would be better served by waiting for this to blow over. As far as the technology goes for us, the more I can keep my people away from sick people, especially this virus, the better off we are as not only as a community for the medical end and the services, but keeping in mind, health and safety is first, but money is second. If I expose and when I expose my people to this virus and whatever else comes down the line, they may become sick, bring it home to their families. That's number one. Number two is a financial impact to us losing people by being exposed. So I just kind of want to clarify that. We talk about this blowing over and waiting a month or two. I don't see that. Unfortunately, I wished I did.
I agree.
But now is the time we try to move this forward. Rensselaer County is doing it. They're trying to move things forward through technology. So I do want to weigh in to the fact that this probably will accelerate it for all the obvious reasons I talked about. Again, health and safety and the wellness of our employees. And number two, the financial end of it as well.
Can I ask Chief a question?
Go ahead, Miss Porterfield. Sorry.
Chief Senecal, I'm not. So, are you just talking about the equipment? Like, I've looked through it, the mobile data terminals and a thing specifically for the fire department? Or are you also talking about that smart city technology, which again, I don't see that it would be in place so very quickly. So are you talking about just those things of purchasing? Because for me, that's not what I'm not talking about taking away that technology.
So
I'm not talking about them taking away the, having your mobile data terminals. That's not what I'm talking about.
well, okay, so monitoring, able to communicate with the hospitals, being able to communicate with other agencies, if you will, to monitor people's vital signs, communicate Wi-Fi network, if you will. That's
Has left
that's
the
part
meeting.
of it, but it's a broader spectrum. There's a lot to it, and if it was easy, we'd have had it done by now. If it was cheap, we'd have had it done by now. But it's something that we're working towards. And again, I think that we're going to push it forward. We as I don't want to call it a nation, but I will say a nation because it's here. It's been here for a while, and I think the fact that this, unfortunately, what we're dealing with now is going to make it move forward.
Mr. Palomini.
I was going to chime in, so you're going to wait a second.
Go ahead.
So I got to say, I think it's a major mistake to hold off on this. If we've learned any lessons with this pandemic, the importance of technology is crucial. This has been proven time and time again, whether we're talking about how South Korea's handled it, how we've handled it or not so handled it. The medical technology is moving vastly forward to remote sensing and remote diagnostics that will take stress off our healthcare system and our hospitals. It'll alleviate some of the stress that the fire departments and the police department are seeing. And it's pretty clear that this is very important, not only with those aspects, but communicating with our residents, being able to monitor the disease. There's all aspects here that are vitally important to make sure we get up sooner rather than later, because the fact is, this pandemic, it'll go away. We'll have a vaccine in a year or so, but the reality is there's going to be more.
Yep.
And that's just the reality. There's going to be more pandemics
Has joined
coming.
the meeting.
And the quicker we get the infrastructure in, the better off we're going to be to provide the services necessary as a city to the residents, make sure they're safe and healthy, and make sure we don't have the issues we're having today as a country. And I think it's vital. And not only that, but we get this infrastructure in. Once this pandemic goes away, it helps us with our recovery economically, and really help boost things. So I personally think it's a major mistake to hold off. Go ahead, Mr. Mudavaran.
Yeah, just a question to Chief. Chief, you mentioned moments ago that we need these items in order for us to communicate better to the other first responder, the hospital. What software or equipment are we using currently to do communication to these agencies?
We're not doing anything right now. We work with cell phones, and that's really about it as far as communicating, with other health agencies. We're talking about monitoring vital signs. We're talking about communicating, that way with either doctors' offices, hospitals, things of that nature.
Mr. Palmetti, Ed Kosher here.
Go ahead, Mr. Kosher.
Can you tell us what's left in that line item for the smart city? And when did we start this? 2017? Does anybody, the allocations that we've given, and what is left in that line item? And what has been spent out, actually?
I don't have that right at my fingertips, but I can get that to you as the meeting goes on. But you got to remember, too, that, we're right in the middle of this big process right now. We have a lot of money encumbered, and we are in the middle of moving this equipment, the fiber. We're putting in the fibers. We got the lighting going. We're putting in the things in National Grid with the other companies too. So I'll get that before the meeting's ended. I'll get that number for you.
Well, I appreciate that because, again, that's one of my concerns. We're all talking about all these projects and everything that we're going to be doing and where these investments are going. But I think Ms. Perazzo hit it on the button. Where are we? Where are we going to see this work being done? What's the timeline on spending these funds? And is it that critical that we need this additional $2 million at this point? And can't we hold this off for a couple of months until this pandemic gets through? We're talking about safety. We're talking about medical. We're talking about schools and internet. These are all things that are going to affect everybody here. And listen, nobody on this council wants to cut any kind of funding when you're talking like that. But let's be realistic. One of these projects is going to take effect. How much have we already allocated and what has been spent? And we need a timeline. We need to see something now and put an end to the talk. We have to see something.
One of my biggest concerns are, though, too, going into the future, it's going to be very difficult to borrow money. Right now we have there's a window. I don't know what's going to happen next year. But I predict it's going to be very difficult, and it's going to cost a lot.
Very good point. Anyone else?
No, I just this is Ms. Porterfield. I want to echo what Mr. Kosher was saying, and we definitely need to see what we spent, how much we spent, and where we spent it, or what the plan is for spending, because we've not seen a lot of that. And based on our current spending and implementation rate, I don't see us moving as quickly as what's being stated right now, based on how we've done so far. Considering the fact of what our workforce is starting to look like, people can't work as close as they used to, and there's a lot of things to factor in. Although we would like it to move along as we thought it would when we passed this budget, but we weren't in the situation that we're in now. So to assume that we can still move ahead at that rate, I think is incorrect. So I would definitely like to see, what's really even conceivable in terms of us moving forward, and where we are right now when things were ideal, and based on moving forward when things are not ideal.
Anyone further?
Mr. Palmini?
Yes.
Karen ZW. I just want to say that I'm glad that Chief Senecal is on, because from what I've seen and heard and read, I think it's critical that we improve our technology for the fire department. We are on the cusp of getting where we need to be, and unfortunately, this pandemic has hit us. I don't think that it's the time for us to, stop dead in our tracks and not move forward. You've heard Mr. Ferrari say, lending is going to be much more difficult next year. I completely support this. We're in uncharted waters right now, and I think what we need to do is stay the course and understand that our citizens are of the utmost importance. And in interfacing with the medical field, I feel is very critical, and we need to ensure that we continue, the plan that we started.
All right, so I will ask for a motion to move this.
Mr. Palomini, before you move, if you don't mind, can we go around and find out what the support we have for this resolution?
Sure.
Before you move it out of committee?
Sure.
Well, what are we talking about now? Are we talking about number 2, the seeker? Is that all we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
But they have to just be clear what Ms.
They're all interlinked.
They all tie in, correct.
2 and 3 is tying together.
And 4, actually.
No, 4 is separate.
4 is just your 18-19, right?
Yes.
Oh, and it says and 20. I'm reading it says and 20.
Well, that's only if 2 and 3 pass.
That's correct.
That is correct, John.
So, Mr. Palomini, can we find out where we stand with this before we proceed, please?
Mr. Mudavaran, go ahead.
I would like to see we revisit this. I'm going to stick as what I've been asking the question last week, to revisit this, to see what we can put on hold, move forward with the item that is absolutely needed, and let's move forward with what is needed. I think that we can hold some item. I had a discussion this morning with Mr. Ferrari on some of the things that we can hold, and I hope that Mr. Ferrari with the mayor, can go back in, look at what is needed right now, and let's amend this and move forward. At this point in time, I cannot support it at this point in time. I'm not calling for any cuts. I'm just saying that let's hold off a little.
Ms. Zalewski-Wazunis.
I think we need to support this, and Mr. Ferrari has indicated that it's, this is the time. Rates are going to be favorable. Borrowing is going to be favorable, and it will help us to get where we need to be from a technology standpoint, especially at the fire department. So I would like to see us move forward on this. I vote yes.
Ms. Perazzo.
Yeah, I think, borrowing and rates and all of that is anybody's guess, but let's look at it in the longer distance. They're going to be trying to restart the economy for some time. And I don't think we have this tiny little window of favorable rates. I think as we try to restart the economy and stimulate the economy and all of that, this is going to be ongoing. I think we need to be prudent, fiscally responsible right now. And I think that what the majority of us are asking is that we just pause a moment on the need versus the want. And so I am in full support of dissecting this a little bit more, cutting a little bit more out of it and being as prudent as we can with our taxpayers' money for a pause. And I know that the pandemic isn't going away, but it is going to rectify itself to a point where we can look at this again in the short term. And I think for now, we really need to know what the impact of this has had on our city budget before we move in a forward direction.
Mr. Kosher.
And again, I'm assuming we're speaking on both number 2 and 3, because if 2 doesn't go, 3 is not going to go either. So again, I'm looking for the information on Mr. Ferrari on the total amount that we've invested on these smart city initiatives, what has been spent out, and again, if the mayor can give us a closer timeline. All the stuff with the fire department is excellent, but I can just foresee coming that there's going to be grant opportunities out there and different streams of funding from not only the feds but the New York State government to move on this, and so that's going to be another hang up and another hold up. And we just, again, we're not saying no to everything. We need to take a look at this. And again, as some of the colleagues have said, we have to be very prudent at this in fiscal at this very important time here in not only the city, the state, but in our country. And I think a couple of months of taking a real good look at this. And setting our priorities once again would not hurt, and I would not support either number 2 or 3.
Ms. Porterfield, I think I haven't called on you yet.
No. So I'm in favor of holding off on this and again, looking at everything that we're talking about as opposed to moving forward in terms of this specific piece. I would say that we're right on the cusp, but we're really not on the cusp. We've allocated money, but we really haven't done a lot of the work yet, and there's a lot of the work to be done. And I understand what Chief Senecal is saying about that the fire department really, the technology would be helpful in terms of working with our medical facilities, et cetera. But realistically, we would not have that in place anytime soon. So I think we should really take a look at this. We move forward with the money that we have allocated and make sure that work goes forward. But before we allocate any additional funds, I'd like us to take a look at what we spent, what's left, and actually what work has really been done and what that work impacts. So the smart city work that we've done, what is it impacting? Is it impacting the fire department? Is it helping there? Or where is it assisting so far? I know that we've done the lights. That's the part I really know about. But in terms of the rest of it, I'm not that clear on that, quite frankly. And I think we really need a full explanation of what we've done. So I'd like to see us hold on that, go through the rest the budget, these particular items as well, that are on this legislation, as Mr. Mudavern has mentioned, and see what's really critical right now and what we can wait for a couple months, 4 months, whatever, amount of time that it takes.
I think, Ms. Patrick, you're next.
Yes, and I think that, again, I wasn't out, on the council when you all passed this to begin with, but I've been very supportive for the last few years of everything that's been happening, especially around smart cities. I'd rather trust what the fire chief, what Chief Senecal is saying. I understand that this stuff isn't going to happen tomorrow, but I think that the longer that we delay, at the same time that the pandemic is, let's face it, not over, and could come back again anyway in the fall, that we should just keep going in a really progressive way. I think that if there's some equipment that isn't part of the Smart Cities initiative that, gets determined. But right now, I would vote yes for this so that we can keep going with the projects that you guys already supported in the previous, when you passed the budget.
And Mr. Chairman, can I just make a comment that, as we moved into this pandemic and we went to web-based meetings, other communities had to go out and buy things. They're running around, they're scrambling a little bit. We just moved over to the network that we have in place so that people who are viewing this on the Cisco systems or the WebEx, that's part of this deployment. And it's something where Schenectady is actually a leader in. And so when people say they don't see it, you're using it tonight. We're ahead of what other communities are doing.
So that leaves me. I would support this. I think it's a major mistake to hold off. The longer we delay, the longer we delay in getting these technologies out and in use. And quite frankly, we're jeopardizing a number of initiatives. Being able to communicate with our residents is very important. Having the ability for hospitals to monitor patients from their homes will alleviate the pressure that's put on them. Doctors being able to evaluate their patients from their clinic or their office is important. And this is where the medical technology is going. I know because I teach it. The reality is, we're going to have more pandemics. You ask the World Health Organization, they're confident in that. So the longer we delay, the bigger we're jeopardizing this. But that being said, we only have 3 in favor. So what I will ask is for a motion to table for 2 weeks, and ask that the mayor and Mr. Ferrari put together the information that's been sought out tonight so that we can have a better understanding where the money's been used and where it's going, as well as some of the technologies that are necessary, but also in regards to the other capital pieces. To be able to discuss that, I will ask my colleagues to send an email with their suggested changes to the capital budget to see if that's worthwhile, because Mr. Mudavern was talking about no cuts, some were talking cuts. So just to get an idea where everybody is, that would be helpful. So with that, I'll ask for a motion to table.
I'll make the motion to table it.
Is there a second?
We're tabling item 2 and 3.
Correct.
Yes.
I second that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So we will move on to number 4, the bans for 2018 and 19 only.
Okay, so yes, so that'll bring us down to this. We need to refinance our renew our bans in May of 2020. So that number is going to go from since we're going to take out the 2020 projects. The number for the total amount will be $18,615,010.
Is there any questions?
Because we are taking out 2020 for now.
Correct.
The total amount, the total 8 million, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
very good.
can you repeat that figure, please, Anthony?
It's $18,615,010.
Thanks.
Mr. Palmini. Mr.
Go ahead,
Palmini?
Mr. Mudavaren.
Yeah, on this resolution here, we're gonna need to amend this resolution or correct it.
Yeah, we're gonna
Because it's-
correct, you're gonna take out that last sentence.
Yes, okay,
The
the $8.7 million.
Yeah.
And we'll just,
And the correct numbers are on top.
yes, okay.
Anything else?
I'll move this.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a motion to adjourn.
You guys drive a hard bargain.
Have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Call to order public
Left the
safety.
meeting.
And this is just a holdover from 2 weeks ago, and we'll ask Mayor McCarthy to just give us a brief update of what is happening out there.
Again, I've renewed the emergency declaration on a ongoing basis. We're in compliance with the governor's orders. We meet almost on a daily basis. Chief Senecal is the incident commander, reviewing with police, fire, city operations. City Hall remains closed. Police and fire department are responding to calls. We saw a slight drop in police calls. They were up a little bit this weekend. I think it was just the warm weather. We're continuing to monitor that, and I don't know if the council has any specific questions.
Any questions for the mayor?
Question. I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
I know that we've closed playground equipment and such. Are we in the position to actually be able to inspect that? And, you know, are the police going through the parks and dispersing kids and things like that, you know, that I may not be erring on the side of caution?
They are doing that, but again, we're asking people to comply and looking for people to act in their self-interest to avoid picking up this virus.
Any other questions for the mayor?
Just a comment, Mr. Mudavaren.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I appreciate your little video clips. I think it's important that we, you know, have that leadership out on the social media, you know, stating, you know, the reminder of washing your hands and social distancing. I think the more it's said, the more people will actually adhere to it. I do walk my dog through the park, and I will tell you that I have not seen anyone on any of the playground equipment, and nor have I seen more than two people walking together, usually husband and wife or child and parent. So I think it is working. So I applaud your efforts and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I have something.
Go ahead.
This is
Mr.
not
Palmini.
directly related to the virus issue, but is and isn't. There's been an uptick with the bicycle gangs starting again. We've seen it down at the harbor, certainly in the middle of State Street, and some attacking people. Certainly youth not following the social distancing recommendations by any stretch. Could you just speak on that a little bit and what's being done to try to curtail this?
Again, we are aware of that. The police department's trying to act in a proactive manner. We'd ask public if somebody sees individuals who are engaged in conduct that is contrary to the public good, whether it's riding on a bicycle or other things, that they call the police department, and that we're going to respond and disperse them. And again, it's just unfortunate where people are doing these things that are negative, not only for themselves, but the community as a whole.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for all that you're doing and all the information you're sharing out there to the public. It's very useful. People are giving positive feedback, and I would encourage you to continue to do that. Thank you. Any other business before public safety? May I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll call to order the Committee on Administrative Efficiency. One item, amending Chapter 6 of the Code of the City of Schenectady regarding affirmative action. And Council President Multivaran, I'll turn this over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Kosher. Do we have Mr. Gardner online?
Yes, I'm here, sir. Yeah.
Thank you. So just a brief, and then I will hand it over to Mr. Gardner. This is just a follow-up from what we had started the discussion back several weeks ago in terms of having a renewed procurement policy. And then we, based on discussion with Mr. Gardner, was to equip him with the items that he needs to move forward and to do his job more effectively. And that's why we end up passing the Section 3 documents, the policies. And then we also look at how can we go a little further. How can we strengthen the affirmative action resolution that we have in order to give him more teeth, as he always mentioned, using his words, to get his job done more effectively. So we are right now here, what myself and Mr. Ron Gardner is doing is to present this to the council. We're not going to act on it. This is just I email the council and all the relevant parties a copy of this draft that we are working on. And we would like to encourage the council member, along with the administration, to look at this document and to come back to us with any suggested change that you would like to add. And we will welcome that. But at this point in time, it's just here presenting this for discussion for us to move forward with this document. Mr. Gardner, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I think that's pretty much it. But I'm available at any time to discuss any of the items. And again, I would like to thank the administration as well as the council for this consideration. I think taking this step in this direction is going to really enhance our ability to service our clients, within the city and create economic clarity and prosperity for all. So I'm very, very excited and proud of the work that we're doing on this legislation, and I ask that and hopefully we can consider your support.
Yeah, and just to add to that, this is Chapter 6 of the affirmative action. Please look at it very carefully because there is amendment to every section of this chapter. So please take a look. Let's come back in the next 2 weeks with all your suggestions, email your suggestion to Mr. Gardner, and we can incorporate it into this draft so that when we meet again in 2 weeks, we have the proposal from each and every one of us.
Very good. Any other comments or notations here? Anybody from the council?
Yes, this is Ms. Porterfield, and I quickly looked through the document, and I definitely want to compare it to what we currently have. But the thing that, I noticed that part of it is, so when we passed the last document, which is after the purchasing policy, and there was a lot of focus on the MWBE part, and, speaking about Mr. Gardner, but we did not even, the purchasing agent is really Mr. Richard, I can never say it, I'll say the last part, Acker. So, I think that we really, as we're looking at this, we really, really want to make sure that, there's part of it that talks about the good faith or good value, which is already part of the purchasing policy. So I want to make sure that when we're looking at this, we're making sure that that it really isn't something that belongs in the purchasing policy versus the affirmative action policy. So I think that's important because I looked at both, but I saw some language that's already in the purchasing policy that was already here. So I just want to to bring that up as we're looking at to make sure that we're putting this in the right part of the code. If we're changing code, I think that's a huge step, and we're changing the city code. I just want to make sure that it is where it should be.
Very good point.
Yeah.
Well taken. I have some notations as well. Any other comments? Mr. Boulter, were you going to add something, sir?
No, I'll just echo with Ms. Porterfield, yes, and that's the reason why we are rolling this out so that you can incorporate, if that is not in there, we can, you can work with us and let's incorporate that. Because I think we added good faith into this document, but please look at it and let us know.
Again, it's a lot of work, so I think it's going to take more than one committee meeting to go through it. But we appreciate all the work that everybody has done on this. And again, the support of Ron Gardner and what he does in his office, I think, is very, very important as well. So, all right, very good. So we'll put this on in 2 weeks and got some homework for everybody, obviously. Anything else to come before a committee?
Motion.
Need a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
You're not in the committee, Karen.
I thought I was. Administrative assistant.
I think it's John and me.
No, I'm not. It's Karen, you, and Ed.
Oh,
Yeah.
because the thing was
I think
changed
it's
then.
John,
Sorry.
John and Karen.
Sorry.
Yep.
Okay, I second. Sorry.
All right, so let me
Lindsay
second all.
Klein
Say aye.
has left the meeting.
Thank you very much. Nothing before to come to our committee. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. We don't have any sale of property and we don't have any claims, so our meeting is closed. Thank you. Good evening and have a safe
Has
one out
left
there.
the meeting.
And
Amen,
take care,
brother.
everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Ed Kosher.
Has left the meeting.